Hi there. Um, so I just posted a video, you like maybe 5 minutes ago. Um, but I wanted to do this video because I really should have done it first, right? This is going to be an intro. Some people know who I am. Um, I'm nothing special, okay? I'm I'm just a kid from Colorado, right? So everybody calls me Bobby. I grew up in a town called Manitou Springs. Uh, the most notable thing we have here is Pikes Peak. Um, the second most notable thing is the Cog Railway that goes up Pikes Peak. The third most important thing we have here is Cave of the Winds, which, if you've ever spent any time watching South Park, you know that Al Gore and the boys were in the caves at Cave of the Winds during one of the Man Bear Pig episodes, right? So, by the way, not sponsored by South Park at all. Although they just bought one of the coolest restaurants in the state, and hopefully they get to fix it and get it going, which is awesome. But the real intro here is, why am I going to be doing videos about liquor, right? A long time ago, a really, really long time ago, I got my start in kitchens, right? So I became a server slash dishwasher, and then I worked my way through a lot of other experiences that involved serving and cooking, and eventually I found myself at a moment in time where some of that was going to go away. I've done a lot of stuff in my time, and a lot of that stuff has done some damage to me, and I had to find a way to make my food dreams happen in a different way. So what I really did was I decided to stick around with one of my mentors, my real mentor, and if you go searching, you can find a video on my first mentor in the food world, my grandfather, and that's on my channel, but it's probably, it's pretty old. I don't know that I ever really posted it, but it's on here, so we'll see. But my other biggest mentor in the kitchen was my teacher. Besides being an employer and so on, he's my mentor. We're really good friends now. I've been working with him since 2011, and during that period, besides restaurants and food things, he told me he had a project that he wanted me to help him with. That project was closing a restaurant and turning it into a distillery. His family had been distilling for quite a long time, I think 150 years at that point. So they'd been distilling for sure in America 150 years. Before that, probably, just not in the United States. So he wanted me to help get the restaurant closed and reopen it as a distillery. And basically, I just took to it, and besides always showing up and doing whatever I could and learning whatever I could, it was something that seemed pretty natural for me. Not that that's in my family history at all. I don't know. It could be, but I haven't found it anywhere. So the first thing he wanted to make was his grandfather's moonshine. Now, I give these tours of our distillery all the time. If I could do that every day, that'd be awesome. I'd be totally happy. But it's winter right now, so I don't get to do it every day. Maybe once a week. We are called Black Bear Distillery. And I'll show you something in a minute, but we're Black Bear Distillery, and we reopened as a distillery immediately after closing the restaurant in 2014. Our license was already ready. We started refurbishing and reformatting the building, and we were able to put products out by the following year, late 2014, early 2015. Why? Because just like everybody else, we realized that a clear product is what we need first. Right, so we started doing tours and tastings summer of 2016, and I've been doing the tours and tastings since then. I've been known to give 30-minute tours, but I'm more well known for doing tours that last upwards of 3 hours. I have done a 6-hour tour. What usually that means is the people involved, the guests, are really into the subject matter and understand stuff and ask really good questions that require some serious answers. I don't mind that. I actually enjoy that. I probably feel my most natural sitting at the tasting table and talking about the building. Now, part of the reason I agreed to do this distillery idea was it's in the town I grew up in. I lived in or very close to Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, till I was 12. And then I moved only about 15 minutes away. So I immediately got a job at 13 years old back up near Green Mountain Falls. So I never really left. And I never really wanted to leave, except for the whole youthful want to travel and see the world kind of garbage. I did some of that, and I ended up coming back to a building that I literally ate at 2 to 3 times a week before I was 12 years old. It was back then called Pike's Pub and Grub, and currently, after 15 years as a fine dining restaurant, Black Bear Restaurant, we switched to Black Bear Distillery. And the first thing I learned how to make was the owner's grandfather's moonshine recipe. In the first iteration of that, and this bottle is, as far as I know, the only one out in the public anywhere, was this label right here. We called it Exile. A lot to do with New Orleans and the owner's background there. But that label has shifted to this label. Mountain Shine with Pikes Peak on the label and our old restaurant Black Bear Bear Claw logo. Same recipe, different labeling. We stopped doing this label back, I want to say 2016. I think we did the last official one of these. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of this because we're walking down memory lane here. And really, there is none of this original bottle left. The original Exile moonshine recipe is the same recipe, but that original batch is long gone. Unfortunately, it disappeared because, well, we sold it all. And we shifted to the new label, so we have the same recipe. That is a mid-North Carolina, Wilkes County corn malted barley recipe. Mostly corn, some malted barley, some brown sugar. And there were 2 rules that we had to take into account. One of them we ignored for very good reason. That rule was nobody under 60 years old was allowed to touch the still. That would have put literally everybody who was involved in this project off the still team, right? So even the owner. So we ignored that particular rule. The rule we did follow, though, was it has to taste like what it's made from, and that is corn, barley, and some brown sugar. Just helps give the yeast a jump start, right? So we use a single pot still. We have since we opened in 2014. We have a Trident pot still. It's a 400-gallon Trident pot still. Trident is located out in Maine. You should check out Mossy Ledge Spirits. That's their company. And we love the still that we got. I use it and enjoy it literally every time, because what's cooler than spending your day watching moonshine come out of a still? It's easily one of my favorite jobs that I've ever done for any company. So in that process, I also began teaching new chefs and training people to also do spirits tastings and spirits pairings and make spirits. So part of my job is the culinary school that we are also owners of. Well, I'm not an owner, but I'm the lead instructor, and so I teach people chef stuff, but I teach people distilling stuff because we decided that this would be a good class, and so I teach distillery operations, where we teach people how to make whiskey and moonshine and all kinds of stuff. It's also history based, so we talk a lot about all kinds of specific liquors and how they were made in history and where they came from and why they exist. Moonshine included. So all of that stuff that's what I do. So why am I gonna make videos like the one I just posted a little bit ago? Because I care. The spirits world is something I enjoy, and it is a big part of my life. So, and like I said in that video, I made a lot of friends doing this work, and a lot of those friends have been nice enough to share their insights and their bottles with me, and I'm incredibly happy about that, and also incredibly happy to have them as friends. Some of those names you'll hear in all these videos, and we will talk specifically about people that I have spent time in their distillery with, and people who have personally handed me bottles from their distillery that aren't available to the public. So all of these things kind of converge in me. The history, how it works, how to make it, all those things kind of come together with me. And so my chef life is limited to passing on my knowledge to the next generation, but getting to also pass on the knowledge of something that was passed on to me, that I didn't have a personal connection with. We called our moonshine Mountain Shine because we are in the mountains of Colorado. Green Mountain Falls is a town that's about 7,800 feet high, elevation-wise, which I believe puts us in the third position for highest altitude distillery in the world. I could be wrong. I don't know every distillery that exists at this point. I do know that Breckenridge held the record for a long time, but I'm pretty sure Snitching Lady in Fairplay, which incidentally is the town South Park is based on. Snitching Lady, I believe, is a couple hundred feet higher than Breckenridge Distillery, so I don't know. I'd have to double check that. I'm pretty sure that's true. All of those connections are connections that I utilize on a daily basis. Green Mountain Falls is where I'm from. I know quite a bit of the people that have been there since I was a kid, but I also know a lot of the history of the town, of certain buildings, and our newest thing is, it may not be an official announcement yet, but I feel safe saying this. We have a brand new, popped up a few weeks ago spring in our parking lot. We're currently working on how to approach that, and we've at least got it under control, so it's not just putting water everywhere, but it's beautiful, clean, clear mountain spring water on our property, which is awesome. So that will be making its debut into products very, very soon, in the production process, but also in the cutting process. So bringing things down to proof is going to be with that water as well. And that's literally the newest thing. I am happy to accept questions. I'll do my best to answer all of them. But that is the main reason why I want to make these videos, because it's an industry I care about, and I do have to contend with a lot of big companies that aren't what you would consider craft, kind of taking chunks out of our side of the business, and I would like to highlight everybody. I'm not going to skip the big companies in my videos, but I am going to maybe shine a light on some stuff for people. That being said, I also discussed a friend of mine, and I thought maybe I should mention a little more about him, because I kind of glossed over him. And so his name is Joe. Joe Hill, who is not Joe Hill as in the son of Stephen King or whatever. He's not that writer. He is a guy like me, started young in the food industry and went through some things in the brewing and distilling world slightly before me. But like I said, he's not overly friendly. He's not. He rubs people the wrong way pretty consistently. And when I say he's more likely to point out what he doesn't like than he is to give you praise for something, he has impacted my relationship with some other distillers in the state, because he likes to bring in other distilleries as examples of what's right versus what's wrong, and he's a personal friend of mine, so he includes me in a lot of stuff. I don't necessarily agree with him all the time, so that's one reason I want to make those videos, but I do want to point out that he has a very clear mindset towards distilling, and he has a very clear goal of what he thinks is good. On the other side of that, he writes reviews constantly. He writes reviews on restaurants. He writes reviews on distilleries. He writes reviews on breweries. He is constantly critiquing and reviewing people. However, he is very what's the word? He's very skittish about things like this. He's never going to make a YouTube video. The day that he makes a YouTube video, it's a pretty fair bet that hell froze over. He also, while he has compiled dozens, maybe hundreds of reviews on different things, it's pretty unlikely he's ever going to publish them. He started a Facebook profile so he could post them, and he still hasn't done that, and it's been several years now. I'm trying to push him towards that, because he does have some good things to say, but we'll see if he ever does. Maybe this reviewing his reviews will get him going. I also personally have an issue with the state of whiskey, specifically whiskey, but all brands of all spirits, really. We have, pardon the pun, distilled spirits down to what's the bottle look like, and how cheap is it, and do I look cool buying it. none of which actually matter. So I would like to showcase things that are more interesting, but I will have to talk about things that I personally don't drink. I will sacrifice and drink those things and tell you what I think about them, so that, so that hopefully you're well informed, because that's what the problem is: information. Current information is all about marketing and not about reality. So hopefully I can bring you some reality on spirits, and tell you some things that maybe you didn't know, and hopefully give you some reviews that help you make decisions when you're walking through the liquor store. Some of those, I'm going to talk about prices and whether something's worth the money or not. I'm going to talk about all that. If you have questions, feel free to comment and send me messages. I will try to respond in a timely fashion whenever I can. But also, I will try to my best to answer your question. If I can't answer it, I can find it out. That's for sure. So, hopefully, what I do taste is interesting to you, and I can promise you that it won't be limited to the big companies that we all know. And you can be assured, and this isn't a slight on them, but you can be assured that none of those bottles that I try on video are going to be Pappy Van Winkle. It's overdone. I don't need to do it. Everybody else wants to taste it. So all the other YouTubers that do this kind of thing and talk about spirits have already tasted it. So I'm not going to bother with that. Because one, it's expensive, and two, I don't like it enough to pay those prices. So we'll see. It could pop up eventually if someone gives me a bottle, maybe, but I'm not going to go seeking it out just to talk about it for 5 minutes, because it will sit on my shelf and look cool, and some people like that, but I'm not one of them. There are bottles behind me, on the top shelf and the bottom shelf down there, and some down in a cabinet down there as well, that are less interesting. But those bottles, every bottle that you see behind me, has been opened. I don't do the unopened bottle thing. I taste everything when I get it. If I don't like it, it may stay on the shelf opened for a lot longer, but we'll see. You'll see how I do things like that. And when I pull something out that is from a friend of mine, I will tell you that I'm a friend of theirs. I do have a way to do blind tastings, so I'm going to do some blind tastings where I don't know what's in the bottle. I have some help with that, so the bottle's going to be filled for me, and I'm not going to know what it is. So it could be a product that I made. Hopefully, I know my own products, but it is also likely that I have a misstep here and there. There's some things that we had made that aren't on the market, and or they're not on the market anymore, so I may have forgotten about those. But one thing I don't forget is where I started, and where I started was moonshine. So, cheers. I taste corn. Now, that being said, I taste corn that came from the Ute Mountain tribe in southern Colorado, down near Four Corners. That's where we usually get our corn. We get most of our other grain, so the malted barley that's in this glass, that malted barley came from Colorado Malting Company down in Alamosa. We've been down on the farm several times. Unfortunately, nobody in Colorado grows sugarcane, so we get that through normal means. Greenhouses in Colorado that could grow sugarcane are growing something else. So I don't know what that is. That's not something I'm into. So I don't I don't know who would be willing to grow sugarcane for us. But if you know anybody, let me know. So I hope that gives you a little more insight on why I'm doing this, or who I am, or why I have anything to say about it. Um, Hopefully this will be fun, and hopefully you'll learn something, and hopefully I will get more comfortable being on video, because it's not hard to tell this isn't my normal thing. So thank you. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that jazz. And I will come back later on with some new bottle or some new review to go over. So, cheers.